What happens if this changes everything? What if this moment becomes the beginning of something much bigger for one of the most iconic figures in Port Charles history? Guys, I don't think we're paying attention to what comes next. We are also focused on the immediate fallout of Jason Morgan returning from his WSB captivity and stepping away from Sonny Corinthos' mob organization, that we are missing the massive paradigm shift forming right in front of our eyes. This is not just a story about a man putting down his gun. This is about a man who is about to have his entire legacy, his entire bloodline, and his entire future completely rewritten. The present moment is just the starting point, a quiet breath before a storm that could redefine the Morgan and Quartermaine families forever. Let us quickly set the current board so we know exactly where all the pieces are standing. Jason Morgan is back in town, and his WSB imprisonment fundamentally changed his worldview. He has made it abundantly clear that Danny Morgan is his absolute top priority, and he is actively cutting ties with the dangerous underworld to be a real father. We know he has Danny, and we know he has Jake Weber. But look at the new pieces moving into play. We have this mysterious new business executive, Hudson, arriving in town, desperately searching for a specific person. We have the lingering, explosive mystery of baby Phoebe's true paternity, especially after Ethan Lovett denied being the biological father. And we have Scout Kane returning to the canvas as a teenager, bringing a whole new wave of complex family drama. That is the board. It looks like a scattered puzzle, but if you look closely, all these pieces are pointing directly at Jason Morgan. So let us map out the first future. What if Hudson's arrival is the catalyst that blows Jason's world wide open? I am looking at a scenario where Hudson is not just some random corporate shark, but someone deeply, personally tied to the late Delilah Wilson. Imagine if Hudson is Delilah's brother or a very close relative, and his true target in Port Charles is not Jack Brennan or Sonny Corinthos, but Jason Morgan himself. In this future, Jason and Delilah had a deeply secret relationship years ago, a connection hidden in the shadows that resulted in a pregnancy Jason never knew about. After Delilah's tragic death, the child was hidden away for her own protection. This could lead to Hudson unleashing a deeply personal vendetta against Jason, blaming him for the pain and ultimate demise of Delilah. But the weapon Hudson uses will not be a gun. It will be the truth. He reveals that Phoebe is actually Jason's biological daughter. Who benefits here? In a twisted way, Jason does, because he gains a child, but the immediate danger is astronomical. If that happens, Jason is suddenly thrust into protecting a vulnerable infant from whatever lingering threats surround Delilah's past, completely upending his quiet retirement plan. But we cannot stop there, because there is a completely different path the story could take, one that alters the fundamental reality of the canvas. Let us look at the second future. What if the revelations do not stop with Phoebe? We have to remember the incredibly messy, convoluted history of Jason Morgan and Drew Kane. We are talking about memory mapping, DNA manipulation, twin swaps, and years of stolen identities. What if the writers are about to revisit that trauma to deliver the ultimate twist? There is a chance that Scout Kane is not actually Drew's biological daughter, but Jason. Imagine the sheer magnitude of that revelation. The story could be heading toward a devastating DNA bombshell, where a past WSB or Cassadine experiment mixed up the genetic markers, meaning Scout carries Jason's DNA. This is not just a minor variation. This destroys the current board entirely. Drew Kane is already slowly recovering his mobility, dealing with the intense pressure of Willow and Nina's blackmail plots. If Drew loses his biological connection to Scout, it could shatter his fragile psyche completely, turning him into a highly unpredictable and dangerous adversary. Meanwhile, Jason would have to navigate the emotional minefield of claiming a teenage daughter who has spent her whole life believing his twin brother was her father. Now, let us push the boundaries and look at the third future. This is the most unexpected possibility, the wild card that very few people are talking about, but it is a scenario that is absolutely thrilling to consider. What if both of these theories are true at the same time? What if Jason Morgan is about to discover that he is not just the father of two boys, but the patriarch of a massive, complex dynasty? Two boys. Jake and Danny, 2 girls, Scout and Phoebe, 4 children. In this future, Jason completely abandons the leather jacket and the motorcycle lifestyle, not just to be a quiet civilian, but to become the ultimate untouchable patriarch of a new Quartermain Morgan empire. He stops being the enforcer who takes orders and becomes the king on the chessboard who builds an impenetrable fortress around his 4 children. He steps up to claim his full ELQ birthright, using his immense wealth and strategic genius to create a legacy that protects Jake, Danny, Scout, and Phoebe from all the enemies of his past. It is a total character reinvention, transforming the solitary hitman into a fierce, calculating father of 4 who will burn the world down to keep his family safe. If you ask me, the path that feels most likely is exactly this massive familial expansion. I keep coming back to the idea that the writers have deliberately isolated Jason from Sonny Corinthos for a specific long-term reason. You do not sever a 30-year mob partnership just to have Jason sit around the boathouse doing nothing. You do it to give him a brand new anchor. The path that makes the most sense is giving Jason a story that is entirely his own, completely divorced from the mob violence that has defined him for decades. By revealing that he has 4 children, the show forces Jason to confront his lost years, his regrets, and his capacity for unconditional love. It gives Steve Burton an incredible amount of emotional material to play with. We have seen Jason the killer, Jason the loyal friend, and Jason the prisoner. But Jason, the desperate, fiercely protective father of 4, that is a narrative goldmine. It perfectly aligns with his current trajectory of wanting to be a better man for Danny, magnifying that desire by 4 and raising the stakes to an unprecedented level. But we must look beyond the immediate reveals. If this scenario plays out, what is the next shockwave? The bigger consequence may be the terrifying realization that Jason's enemies now have 4 distinct targets. Looking ahead, if Jason claims Scout and Phoebe alongside Jake and Danny, he is painting a massive bullseye on his own family. What happens next may be a completely different kind of war in Port Charles. Sonny Corinthos, already feeling abandoned by Jason's exit from the organization, might view Jason's new family empire as a threat, or worse, he might try to pull Jason's children into his own dark orbit. Furthermore, how do the Quartermains react? Tracy and Ned would suddenly have to contend with Jason controlling a massive voting block of ELQ shares on behalf of his 4 heirs. The power dynamics of the entire city would fracture and rebuild themselves around Jason's new family. If that happens, Jason cannot just be a passive father. He will have to become a mastermind. He will have to systematically dismantle Hudson's vendetta, navigate the heartbreaking emotional fallout with Drew over Scout, and fiercely guard Phoebe from whatever shadows follow her mother's bloodline. The story could be heading toward Jason building an intelligence and security network that rivals the WSB, solely dedicated to watching over his children. We are looking at a future where the present mysteries, the stolen files, the hidden black boxes, the corporate struggles at deception all become secondary to the rise of the Morgan family dynasty. The future consequences of Jason discovering he has 4 children will ripple through every single storyline, forcing every character to adjust to a Port Charles where Jason Morgan no longer fights for territory, but fights exclusively for the survival and legacy of his bloodline. This is the map of the future, guys, and if even half of these possibilities come to pass, we are in for the most emotional, high-stakes era of Jason Morgan's life.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.